Hi everyone, welcome to my third episode of my series Superstar Locomotives. Now, I've recently began two recent episodes about the GG1s and the AEM7s. But this time, we're going to talk about another superstar electric locomotive, that being the ACS-64. I decided to include both Amtrak's and Septest units because they were the same, but they were different cousins and with different paint jobs, pulling intercity and commuter trains on the Northeast Corridor and on Septest regional rail lines. They may be sleek, modern, fast, and reliable, but they're not pretty much in full service yet is because they are rather new. Haven't been built in the 2010s. Without further ado, let's get started. In the 2010s, Amtrak was looking to replace their aging AEM7s and unreliable HHP8s. That did happen 9 years after New Jersey Transit replaced their ALP-44s with ALP-46s on their different commuter rail lines. Amtrak did manage to find a brand new locomotive, which would be based on the Air Sprinters and Vectrons. This new locomotive would be known as the Amtrak City Sprinter 6.4, or ACS-64. Significant structural changes to the design were made to comply with American crashworthiness requirements, including the addition of crampable zones and anti-climbing features, as well as structural strengthening of the cab, resulting in heavier locomotive than the previous models. This also included a monocoque structure with integral frames and sidewalls. Other additions included advanced safety systems and special couplers to prevent jackknifing and rolling over in derailments. The AC-64s would be much more energy efficient compared to their diesel predecessors. They would also be more cost-friendly to operate, making use of regenerative braking, which is when activated feeds the unused electricity back to the overhead wires and for other trains to use. Amtrak ordered 70 sprinters, numbered 600 through 670, with the first three being unveiled by Siemens, being 600, 601, and 603 being tested in Pueblo, Colorado, and 602 on the Northeastern Corridor. The locomotives were designed to accelerate 18 and fleet cars. Maximum speeds had as 125 miles per hour on the Northeastern Corridor in little 8 minutes, with trains of 8M fleets taking over 2.5 minutes to reach the same speed. Each AC-64 has 2 electrical converter units with 3 IGBT-based water-cooled output inverters per converter. 2 of the inverters power the traction motors. The third unit supplies head-end and auxiliary power. The HEP auxiliary inverters are dual redundant and identical, allowing the locomotive to remain in service should one inverter fail en route. The locomotive bogies are fabricated steel designs and low-line traction links and center pivot pin. The traction motors are frame-mounted with torque transmitted via a hollow shaft drive. Locomotive braking is facilitated by the cheek-mounted disc brakes on each wheel. The locomotives are compliant with the Buy America Act and were assembled at the Siemens factory in Florida, California, with traction and electrical equipment being manufactured at the Siemens facilities in Norcross and Alpharetta, Georgia. I do apologize pronouncing those names wrong. Traction inverters were manufactured in Alpharetta, and the traction motors and gear units were manufactured in Norwood, Ohio. As for the technical specifications, they produced 8,600 horsepower, same with 6,400 kilowatts. They weigh at 215,537 pounds, same with 97,766 kilograms. They measure at 66 feet 8 inches in length, 9 feet 9.5 inches in width, and 12 feet 6 inches in height. The AC-64s have a maximum speed of 125 miles per hour, or they could go 130 miles per hour if wanted. Aside from their modern, sleek, stylish look, they were seemingly superstars of Amtrak's Northeast Corridor trains between Boston and Washington, D.C. The reason why is because of their red panographs, large cab windows, and LED headlights. They were also equipped with Nathan K5LA air horns. Here are a few examples.
Is this team good? They what?
On February 6, 2014, then Vice President Joe Biden visited 38th Street Station in Philadelphia to tour AC-64 number 600. In his substance remarks, he stressed the importance of infrastructure investment as well as an important role of Amtrak's new locomotives will play in serving the critical artery of the Northeast Corridor. After tests were completed and a delivery was done, 600 entered service as the first ACS-64 on February 7, 2014 on Northeast Regional Train number 171 from Boston, Massachusetts to Washington, D.C. The first run went very well, with the train running right on time. The sprinters would prove to be a successful and modern replacements for Amtrak's aging fleet of locomotives on conventional intercity services. And most importantly, they'd be giving passengers a very smooth ride. 9 months later, on November 7th, Amtrak retired the last of their HHP-8s, placed them in storage, after being renumbered 680 through 694, only to avoid conflicts with the ACS-64s. While that was happening, Amtrak ACS-64 delivery went on and on steadily throughout the year, with 633 being part of that. The order increased to 3 units per month, with some being assigned to push-pull operations on the Keystone service between New York and Harrisburg. Around this time, 600 was named David L. Gunn, after Amtrak's former CEO president that led the railroad between 2002 and 2005. In 2015, Amtrak began assigning them to other trains such as the Carolinian, the Cardinal, the Crescent, the Pennsylvanian, the Palmetto, the Vermonter, and Silver service. On an unfortunate note, on May 12, 2015, Amtrak ACS-64 number 601 was involved in a derailment in the Frankfort Junction neighborhood of Philadelphia, traveling at 102 miles per hour before overturning on a sharp curve in a 50 mile per hour zone. The cause of the accident was the engineer losing situational awareness of where he was. After the accident, Amtrak began installing positive train control on the entire Northeast Corridor. On a positive note, Amtrak began allowing the AC-64s to tow P-42DC diesels along the Keystone Corridor between Harrisburg and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Also, locomotive number 642 was delivered with a special veteran scheme on July 2nd, 2015. And 664 was leased to SEPTA's regional rail system in February and March 2016, and SEPTA began testing the locomotive just before they began ordering them. And like I said before, it was tested along the Minneapolis North Town, Lansdale Town, Warminster, West Trenton, and Chestnut East and West lines. It was tested for around 3 weeks until being returned to Amtrak's intercity rail network on March 21st. The reason why the tests were completed is because they saw that the ACS-64 would run fine on SEPTA's regional rail tracks, and they would simply fit in intercity tunnels. The 7s were eventually still being phased out during the year 2016. These electrics were very reliable and didn't suffer the issues that the HHP-8s had. But before they could be completely replaced, tragedy would once again strike the ACS-64s. On April 3, 2016, southbound Palmetto train number 89 struck a backhoe in Westchester, Pennsylvania, killing 2 track workers and injuring 39 people. Locomotive 627 were severely damaged, along with 2 passenger coaches. Bittersweet ending was that Amtrak received its last ACS-64, number 670, which was delivered in June and entered service in August. Afterwards, the AM7s passed their torches over to the ACS-64s, and thus Amtrak began scrapping and recycling their AM7s. And now, Amtrak Intercity Northeast Corridor service had finally been taken over by the ACS-64s with AM fleets and the SLR Express. And in 2018, SEPTA ordered 15 ACS-64 Express engines, numbers 901 through 915. 901 entered service in July of 2018 before running its first train on SEPTA Train 9561, the Great Valley Flyer along the Paoli-Thorndale line from Center City towards Thorndale. After that, SEPTA began retiring their AM7s before they were all scrapped in 2022. In the autumn of 2018, Mark began leasing some of Amtrak's ACS-64s for commuter service on the Penn line between Washington, D.C. and Perryville via Baltimore. The ACS-64 number 606 was wrapped in a Coca-Cola themed design in November 2019. As part of a new partnership between Amtrak and Coca-Cola, the locomotive made its debut appearance pulling northbound Silver Meteor train number 98 through Newark, Delaware on November 14, 2019. People had wonderful times catching it on film and was seen pulling different trains including the Northeast Regional. And also, a Coca-Cola soda bottle would be placed beside the unit. But this wasn't the only makeover. In 2022, it was rewrapped into its National Graphics Beyond King Tut wrap to promote the National Graphics exhibit, thus nicknaming the unit King Tut. And 662 was wrapped into the Phase 3 Heritage livery on December 9th, 2021. This retro design was inspired by the classic look worn by Amtrak's AM7 locomotives in the 1980s and was part of a collaboration with Dovetail Games to promote Train Sim World 2. Not only to promote the Xbox game, but also to celebrate Amtrak's 50th anniversary ever since it was created on May 1st, 1971. Yet, this wrap was only temporary until 2023, when it was repainted back into its original standard livery. SEPTA's Express engines showed really potentials in hauling Comet 2 and 3 Express coaches along different lines such as the Paoli-Thorndale, Wilmington Newark, West Trenton, and Media Wawa lines. Not only having red express boards, but having current blue limited boards as well. SEPTA's express engines can be seen on different push-pull trains such as the Thorndale Limiteds and Thorndale Expresses, the Wawa Express, the West Trenton Express, the Trenton Express, and the Wilmington Newark Limited. Not only could the sprinters go forwards, but they can go backwards too. They were true superstars of both Amtrak's Intercity and SEPTA's Express commuter rail services, and they continue to do it to this very day in 2024 and 2025. They're sleek, modern, fast, and reliable. They're also really special passenger engines. They could pull AM fleets and Comets with ease. And they are also viewed as fan-favorite locomotives amongst many rail fans, including myself. If you guys adore those AC-64s, then I adore them too. Thank you very much for watching. I know it's been really long since I started this series. Now, I'd like to give credits to the following people. The Southeastern Pennsylvania Rail Fanning Productions for the horn clips. Genesis Sanctuary for letting me use his footage of the revenue run of 600. And mostly to EMD SD14R. The reason why is because he was so nice to me. And to be honest, he was the best. Anyways, we're gonna go right back to the past. From the 1910s to the 1980s or 1990s. The next episode will be about Milwaukee Road Superstar Locomotives, the AP2 Bipolars. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Ciao!